At 3:47 a.m., my 8-year-old daughter whispered, "Daddy, they left me on the mountain." My wife laughed. An hour later, I learned the truth, and everything I believed about my marriage shattered forever. The phone rang at 3:47 a.m., and the sound ripped me out of sleep like a knife. For half a second, I didn't know where I was, just that my chest felt tight and my heart was racing, as if it already knew something terrible had happened. I fumbled for the phone on the nightstand, knocking over a glass of water, the cold splash barely registering as I saw my daughter's name on the screen. Qley. My hands were shaking before I even answered. "Daddy," she sobbed, her voice thin, distorted by wind and static. "They left me. I'm at the top of the mountain. It's dark and so cold. I'm scared." I sat bolt upright, pain shooting through my injured leg as adrenaline flooded my body. "Qley, sweetheart, listen to me," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm, even as panic clawed up my throat. "Where are you exactly? Do you see any signs? Any lights?" "I don't know," she cried. "There was a building before, but I can't find it. My hands hurt. Daddy, please don't hang up." "I'm here," I said quickly. "I'm not going anywhere. Just keep talking to me." But the line crackled, the signal breaking apart, and then the call dropped. I stared at the phone in my hand, my breathing shallow, my ears ringing with the echo of her voice. I tried calling back immediately. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. A third time. Nothing. "My name is Tom Renair. I'm 38 years old, and until that moment, I thought my life, while damaged, was still understandable, controlled. 6 months earlier, I'd believed I had everything. A successful architectural firm in Denver, a marriage that looked solid from the outside, and an 8-year-old daughter who thought her dad could fix anything. We lived in one of those neighborhoods where the houses are quiet but expensive, where everyone smiles politely while silently measuring your net worth and social value. That illusion cracked in February, when I wrapped my BMW around a telephone pole on I-25 during an ice storm. The accident shattered my left leg, broke 3 ribs, and left me with a concussion severe enough that I couldn't remember my own middle name for weeks. Worse than the physical damage was the forced stillness that followed. 3 months confined mostly to my house. 3 months of watching my marriage decay up close without the distraction of work to hide behind. Julia had never been warm. She was efficient, precise. She treated emotions the way she treated real estate contracts, as obstacles to be managed. But after my accident, her efficiency turned sharp, then cruel. "You're pathetic," she'd said just days earlier, watching me struggle up the stairs with my cane. "Lying around like this while I'm out there keeping everything afloat." She wasn't wrong about one thing. She was keeping us afloat. Her real estate business had exploded, largely due to her partnership with Carter Walsh, a tech entrepreneur with too much money and too little character. He was always around, late meetings, texts that stopped when I entered the room, new lingerie that never appeared in our bedroom, and the way Julia looked at me, like something she'd stepped on and couldn't scrape off her shoe. But none of that mattered at 3:47 a.m. My daughter was alone on a mountain. I swung my legs out of bed, biting back a groan as pain shot up my side, and grabbed my phone again. I dialed Julia's number, straight to voicemail. Again. Nothing. Panic spread through my chest like ice water. Qley had gone on a weekend ski trip to Vail with Julia and her parents, Harold and Margaret Henderson. I hadn't been invited. Officially, it was because of my leg. Unofficially, it was because Harold Henderson had never liked me. I was an inconvenience in his daughter's carefully planned life. A man who lacked ambition, as I'd once overheard him say at a dinner party. I tried Julia again. This time, on the 4th ring, she answered. "What?" she snapped, her voice thick with sleep and irritation. Julia, I said, barely able to keep my voice steady. Qley just called me. She's lost. She says you left her on the mountain. There was a pause. Then she laughed, not nervously, not in disbelief. It was a casual, dismissive laugh. Oh, that, she said. She's being dramatic. She wandered off during lunch. She'll figure it out. My blood ran cold. Julia, she's 8 years old. It's below freezing up there. I didn't call you for parenting advice, she said sharply. Qley is your little snowflake, not mine. I never wanted her anyway. You deal with it. The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, staring at the phone, trying to process what I'd just heard. My wife had just admitted, without hesitation, that she'd abandoned our daughter and didn't care if she survived. Something broke inside me then. Not shattered. Froze. I called 911 and was transferred to Vail Mountain Rescue. Within 20 minutes, I was forcing my damaged body into my car and driving into the blackness toward the mountains, my legs screaming every time I shifted gears. I barely noticed the pain. Fear drowned everything else. At the base lodge, I met Pete Morrison, the rescue coordinator, a weathered man with eyes that had seen too many bad endings. Teams were already heading up the mountain as dawn began to stain the peaks pink. The temperature was brutal, 15 below zero. We'll find her, Pete said. If she's up there, we'll find her. Hours passed. Teams returned empty-handed. My mind spiraled, calculating how long a small child could survive those conditions. Around noon, Julia and her parents arrived. Julia collapsed into tears the moment cameras appeared. Her performance was flawless. Grief-stricken mother, devastated family. I watched from a distance, numb, knowing exactly what she'd said to me hours earlier. At 2:30 p.m., Pete approached me, his face grave. Tom, he said quietly, we found something under the ice near Cascade Falls. My world tilted. Everything went white. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text message from Qley's number. Daddy, I'm okay. I'm warm. Nice people gave me hot chocolate. Don't tell Mommy where I am yet. I'm scared of her. I looked up at Julia, still sobbing for the cameras, and felt something cold and deliberate settle into my chest. She had wanted us to believe Qley was dead, and that was when I understood. This wasn't neglect. This was intent. And I wasn't going to let her control the ending. I didn't run toward Julia. I didn't scream. I didn't tell anyone what she'd said on the phone. Instead, I stood there in the frozen parking lot, my phone buzzing in my hand, and did something I'd never done in my life before. I waited. Shock does strange things to the mind. It doesn't always come with tears or rage. Sometimes it arrives as clarity so sharp it almost hurts. Every moment of the past 6 months replayed itself in a new light. Julia's coldness after my accident, her impatience, her constant insistence that Qley was too sensitive, her obsession with insurance paperwork she'd pushed across the table one evening, saying it was just routine financial planning. I hadn't questioned it then. Now I hated myself for that. I walked over to Pete Morrison and pulled him aside, away from the cameras, away from Julia's wailing performance. My hands were shaking as I showed him Qley's text. His expression changed instantly. Jesus, he muttered. She's alive. Yes, I said, and she's terrified of her mother. Pete looked back toward Julia, who was now clinging to Carter Walsh, who I hadn't even noticed arrive, his arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. The image burned itself into my brain. She hasn't asked a single real question, Pete said quietly. Not about trail locations, not about weather exposure, not about search grids. She's been performing, not parenting. I need time, I said. 1 hour. Don't call off the search yet. Pete hesitated. Tom, if this is criminal, I know, I said. But if we move too fast, she lawyers up and spins this. I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with. Pete studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. 1 hour. I texted qley back, my fingers stiff with cold. Sweetheart, it's Daddy. You're safe now. Can you tell me where you are? The response came quickly. There's a sign that says Rocky Mountain Rescue Station 7. A lady named Sarah found me. Daddy? Mommy told Grandpa Harold she hoped I would wander off and not come back. My vision blurred. Not because qley was lost, because she was never supposed to be found. I borrowed gear from Ski Patrol and made the climb toward Rescue Station 7, my legs screaming with every movement. Sarah Martinez met me at the door, a calm, steady woman with the eyes of someone who had seen too much. She's remarkable, Sarah said quietly. And Tom, this wasn't an accident. qley was wrapped in blankets, clutching a mug of hot chocolate. When she saw me, she broke down, not from fear, but relief. I held her, feeling her small body tremble. Daddy, I knew you'd come. I promised her I wasn't leaving again. What she told me next shattered whatever hope I still had that this was some kind of misunderstanding. Julia had taken out an insurance policy. Without telling me, Harold Henderson had discussed payouts openly. Carter had been on the phone the entire drive up the mountain. Julia had pointed qley toward a trail and told her the bathroom was that way. Not an accident. A plan. I left qley with Sarah and went back down the mountain with something new burning in my chest. Purpose. Back home that night, I didn't collapse. I didn't drink. I called Shane Morrison, Pete's younger brother and my closest friend, cybersecurity expert, the kind of man who could find things that didn't want to be found. What do you need? Shane asked after I told him everything. Everything, I said. Insurance, phones, messages, proof. Within hours we had it. The policy had been taken out 3 months earlier. Forged signature, accidental death clause, $6 million if both qley and I died. Texts between Julia and Carter discussing timing and mountain weekends. Casual references to accidents, to how no one would question a man with head trauma making bad decisions. By the time Shane leaned back from his laptop, the room felt colder. This is attempted homicide, he said. Yes, I replied, but that's not enough. Because legal truth and public truth are not the same thing. I called Julia. She answered immediately, voice trembling with fake concern. They found clothing, I lied. They're not sure yet. Her sob sounded real this time. I can't handle this, she said. Carter's driving me back to Denver. Relief. That's what I heard beneath her grief. I hung up knowing exactly what I was going to do. I wasn't going to fight her in court first. I was going to expose her, slowly, carefully. And when she realized what was happening, it would already be too late. By Tuesday, Julia was cracking, demanding to see qley, threatening court orders, asking questions she should have asked on day one or if she actually cared. Shane intercepted Carter's cloud backups, messages that made my blood run cold. They had planned not just qley's abandonment, but my own disappearance later. I wasn't supposed to survive the accident. I was supposed to be the first failed attempt. By Friday, the package was ready. Insurance documents, text messages, audio recordings, a written statement from an 8-year-old describing how her mother pointed her toward death. At 3 p.m., Shane hit send. Denver's social world exploded. I watched from across the street as Julia's real estate empire collapsed in real time. Clients walked out. Phones rang unanswered. Her face drained of color as she scrolled, realizing the story was everywhere. She called me screaming. You ruined me. No, I said calmly. You did. She begged, bargained, offered money, custody, everything. I felt nothing. By By Saturday morning, Julia and Carter were arrested. Conspiracy, fraud, child endangerment. When her parents tried to buy my silence, I recorded it. When they threatened me, I recorded that too. By the time they left my porch, broken and shaking, I knew the war was over. The only thing left was healing. Qley came home weeks later, slowly, carefully, with a therapy, with nightmares that faded over time, and every night before bed, she asked the same question. She can't hurt me anymore, right? No, I said every time. She can't. Because the truth had done what lies never could. It ended her. The house felt different when Qley finally came home. Not lighter, not happier, just honest. Like something rotten had been cut away, and the wound was finally allowed to breathe. Her room looked the same. Same posters, same stuffed animals. But she slept with the light on for weeks, and I never once told her to turn it off. Some nights, I heard her whispering to herself, rehearsing safety rules like prayers. Doors locked, daddy close, phone charged, mountains are dangerous. I learned not to interrupt those moments. The trial didn't start right away. Cases like this never do. There were hearings, motions, sealed documents, and more reporters than I ever wanted to see in my driveway. I said no to interviews. I let the evidence speak. Silence, I'd learned, was more powerful than statements. Julia tried to contact me from jail. Letters at first. Apologies written in careful language, as if she were still negotiating a deal instead of asking forgiveness. She never once asked how Qley was sleeping. Never asked if she still liked hot chocolate. Never asked what nightmares she was having. That told me everything I needed to know. I never replied. Carter's lawyers tried to paint him as manipulated, a man led astray by a powerful woman. Julia's lawyers tried the opposite, two people throwing each other under the same bus. Neither defense survived the messages, the recordings, the policy documents, or Qley's testimony, delivered calmly through a closed-circuit feed, her voice steady in a way that made grown adults cry. When the verdict came, there was no drama, no gasps, just a quiet reading of consequences, decades in prison, parental rights permanently terminated, financial assets seized, lives reduced to case numbers. I didn't look at Julia when the sentence was read. I was watching Qley trace circles on her jeans with her finger, focused, present, alive. That was enough. Life didn't magically fix itself after that. Qley needed years of therapy. I needed it too, even though I didn't admit that at first. Trauma doesn't disappear just because justice shows up on time. It lingers. It reshapes you. It teaches you where your edges really are. I sold the big house in Denver. Too many echoes. Too many rooms that remembered things I didn't want remembered. We moved to a quieter place near the foothills. Smaller. Warmer. A place where neighbors waved but didn't pry. I rebuilt my business slowly. Took fewer jobs. Better ones. The kind that felt solid and honest. Like the work mattered because it helped someone live, not because it impressed anyone. One night, months later, Qley asked me something I wasn't prepared for. "Daddy," she said, staring at the ceiling, "do you think Mommy was always bad?" I thought carefully before answering. "No," I said. "I think she chose herself over everyone else. Over and over. And eventually, that choice became who she was." Qley nodded like that made sense. Kids understand truth when you don't dress it up. "She can't choose me anymore," Qley said. "No," I replied softly. "She can't." That was the night Qley finally turned off the light by herself. Sometimes I still wake up at 3:47 a.m. My body remembers what my mind tries to forget. But when that happens, I walk down the hall and listen to my daughter breathing, steady and warm, and the world rights itself again. People ask me how I stayed so calm, how I didn't explode. How I didn't ruin myself chasing revenge? The truth is simple. I didn't need to destroy anyone. I just stopped protecting their lies. And when the truth finally stood up on its own, it did all the work for me. I didn't win because I was smarter. I didn't win because I was crueler. I won because I chose my child over everything else. And that choice, that's the one thing no court can ever take away. The mountain is still there. Cold, silent, indifferent. But my daughter is here, and that's the only ending that ever mattered.